Kia ora, my name's Gareth Watkins and I'm the founder of PrideNZ.com. And in this short video, this short introduction, I'll just take you through some of the background to PrideNZ and look at its the starting point of its data journey. So PrideNZ is celebrating 15 years in 2024, which is really fantastic. If you want to kind of get a sense of what it was like back in the day, the National Library has archived the website since 2011. So this is what it looked like in 2011. But it's really grown into a massive audio archive of rainbow LGBTI takatapui experiences here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So there are over 900 audio recordings. So these are interviews and they're also event recordings. Mainly, I have to say, with events happening around Wellington because that's where I'm based, but it really has grown over time. So the aims of PrideNZ haven't changed since its inception. Very much to capture a sense of rainbow lives in Aotearoa, to make those recordings as easily available as possible so people can hear and see where they fit in, hear experiences and see where they fit into the rainbow community, and also make those recordings available to generations in the future by depositing them into an archive. And we're really fortunate to be partnering with the Alexander Turnbull Library to archive this wonderful set of recordings. So it started in 2009, but I was actually recording events and interviews before then. So the earliest recordings in the PrideNZ collection go back to the 1990s. So we're talking around about 30 years of recordings. So that's still quite a young collection. And very much we're dealing with the participants in terms of the recordings. So we're not necessarily dealing, at this stage anyway, with the family or wider family. It's very much a one-to-one relationship with participants. When participants are recorded, it's very much a public document, so they know that it's going to be published, it's going to be online. So nothing that we collect at PrideNZ is kind of for private, for kind of archival use. It's very much, we want this material to be out there, to be visible, to be accessible, and to be discoverable. So the website went online in 2011, and one of our big issues, I guess, with the website is that we've got audio files, but actually Google and other search engines actually use text to do indexing. So we needed to get a lot of our content was kind of locked up in the audio, so we needed to get ways of making it more discoverable and make it more kind of text-based. So one of the things we originally did, of course, was to put titles and descriptions of the audio recordings. But in 2013, we started doing community tagging. So this doesn't rely on a particular thesaurus of terms. It's very much about, as the audio goes through, actually tagging kind of key elements and tagging from a user's point of view. So like if a user wanted to find this audio, what would be the tags that they would search for? So the decades that are being mentioned in the recording, topics, people, places, a whole range of different things. And so we've got around about 8,000 tags now. So that started in 2013. And then I added voice tags, so who can actually be heard audibly in the recording, so to help narrow down searches. And then the next step in our data journey was to actually add high quality downloadable files. So currently you can play an audio file live on the site as an MP3, but you can also download a high quality MP3 file. And that happened in 2016. And so gradually, as you can see, that over time we have actually tried to add more and more discoverability options to the PrideNZ collection. And this is just the beginning, because around about 2020, that's when it gets really exciting. Well, 2020 was a bit of a game changer for PrideNZ. It was the first time we could actually transcribe the entire audio collection, so around, at that time it was about 800 items, and make transcriptions and make those transcriptions available on the internet. Prior to this, we had done 1 or 2 transcriptions, but that was costing a lot. But in 2020, we utilised Otter AI, and that allowed us to do bulk transcriptions, and it was actually pretty good. To give you an idea of what those transcriptions look like, we'll jump back to 2020, and this is some text from, this snapshot was done by the National Library in 2020. You can see here that PrideNZ is PrideNZ. The person's name is Well, in fact it's actually Will. And Chris Bracco here is actually Chris Brickle, and Chris hails from Dunedin, which is Dunedin. So you can see that, I mean, while it's pretty good, there is still a few issues with the New Zealand accent. If we just jump forward very quickly to 2023, so I got the transcriptions redone, and we'll have a quick look at that same text. And you can see now that we have my name as Will, and we also have Chris Brickle and Chris hails from Dunedin. So you can see even in the space of 3 years that the language models have got a lot better at interpreting the New Zealand accent. I have to say that the transcription of Te Reo is still problematic, although it has improved over the last couple of years. So for instance, this is from 2023. We are now getting macronization. You can see here, and you can see here, here. So it certainly is getting better, but it certainly is still problematic, as is the New Zealand accent in some situations. But jumping back to 2020, so once we had those transcriptions done, we were able to then look about auto-tagging the content. And so, for example, this is a queer objects event that was held at Te Papa. And we'll just ignore the summary for the stage, and we'll just go down to the very bottom here of this page, and we can see that the tags, so these tags were manually tagged by myself, and that involved kind of tagging each one. But then we thought, well, actually, if we've got a list of tags, so we've got around about 8,000 tags in the system, and we've got the transcripts, why don't we run the transcripts through the dictionary of the tags and see if there are words that we can auto tag? And so this is exactly what I did. We now have, so basically for each audio file, we have a transcription. We have 8,000 tags in a dictionary, and we go, do any of these words in the dictionary match the transcription text? And if they do, we make the tags. And again, this is just such an opening up of the collection. Yes, there are mistagging, but actually overall, I think the risk of mistagging is kind of, well, the accessibility overweighs the mistagging. So we can always take something that's been mistagged out, but I think it actually adds another layer of discoverability, which we didn't have in the past. Just getting back to the transcriptions, so Otter started in 2020, but it wasn't until 2023 when the prospect of ChatGPT was coming along that I thought actually it would be great to get the transcriptions retranscribed, or the audio retranscribed. And so in September 2023, I bulk transcribed everything through Amazon, and Amazon did a very good job of the transcriptions. But an even better job I found was a program called Descript. And Descript not only handles the Kiwi accent a lot better, but also I think it handles te reo a lot better as well. And so now manually for each new recording I'm using Descript, and then I'm retrospectively going backwards and using Descript to create new transcriptions. And I think that's going to be an ongoing journey as we go forward. In 2021-2022, I began working with Ashwini and Valerie from the Alexander Turnbull Library to deposit the audio collection from PrideNZ into the Turnbull, which was very, very exciting. But one of the things that it really brought to the surface was that the metadata around the recordings really needed to be there and to be accurate. So things like, the title, the description, the place of recording, who's featured in it, all of that contextual information that will help it to be findable in the future. And so you can see this is just a recording page on the PrideNZ website. So we've got things like the description here. We'll just ignore the summary for a few minutes. But down at the very bottom here, we've got the voices of the people, the tags, computer-generated tags, and of course things like the record date, the record location. So all of that information needed to be brought together, and so that really inspired me to do a metadata page of each recording. And so when you click on that, not only do you get that kind of information that the user normally sees, but you also get information around about the file itself. So the master file name, an MD5 checksum, the recording, sample rate and bit depth, all of that kind of information, as well as another version or displaying another way of displaying the description, summary, tags, etc. And so when we deposit material with the Turnbull, not only do we give them the audio file, but we also give them this file here, which is basically all of the information relating to that particular thing. So in doing that, I was thinking, gosh, well, then we can also, if we're providing it to the National Library, the Turnbull Library, then why not provide it to everyone else? And the idea about doing data sets and making them available as Creative Commons licensed came into being. And so this is around about 2022. And so we now have a whole set of freely available non-commercial data sets that can be used. So a really nice one here is the locations data set. So this is where we've geo-tagged material that links into a possible use is a rainbow map. And this is just using OpenStreetView as the mapping facility. You can see this is Wellington here. Then we also have the media data set, which is a huge data set of all the media items, plus all of the keywords, summaries, people speaking. That's a very important one. We've got one that shows all the tags that we use on PrideNZ. Recently, I've put up a text data set, and this is basically all of the transcriptions, all of the Hansard documents that we've got on PrideNZ. It can't be used non-commercially. Well, it can only be used for personal research and study, just because it's so full of information and information belonging to it's other people's experiences, but it's an invaluable research tool for using. So we're not licensing that at all, but it's there for personal use. And we also have a timeline, which is around about 3,800 entries relating to rainbow events that have happened in Aotearoa, New Zealand over the past 200-ish years. Well, another really exciting use of AI is in the space of text-to-speech or speech-to-speech. And we've used text-to-speech a number of times on PrideNZ. An example of this is we have a number of pages that have Hansard transcripts of parliamentary debates or reports back from select committees in Parliament. For example, Here's one from 1968. And rather than just having the text, we thought, wouldn't it be great to kind of bring it alive and have it as a bit of an AI voice? And so here's an example. This was done a couple of years ago.
The voices in this recording are computer generated. Gordon Grieve.
I am directed by the Petitions Committee to present the report of the Committee on the Petition of the New Zealand Homosexual Law Reform Society praying for an amendment to the Crimes Act 1961. The committee has no recommendation to make. I move.
And you can see that it's still sounding a wee bit computer generated, but it's not too bad. But, you know, moving forward a couple of years, we are now getting to the point where actually the computer-generated voices are just sounding amazing. So, for example, we're going to be looking at using it to read creative works. So in this example, for instance, we've got a Catherine Mansfield short story called Leaves Amore, and it's a one-page short story and talks about same-sex attraction. And this is a website called Jenny, and it's text-to-speech. And have a listen to this.
I can never forget the Thistle Hotel. I can never forget that strange winter night. I had asked her to dine with me and then go to the opera. My room was opposite hers. She said she would come, but could I lace up her evening bodice? It was hooks at the back.
And so this is getting really close to having all the inflections, all the pauses that a human would put into some creative writing. Another website that we're trialing is one called PlayHT, and this is a lot more conversational in terms of the artificial intelligence audio generated. So another thing we're thinking about is taking our history column, our history timeline, and turning it into a speech-based history that people can use. So, for instance, here is Russell, an Australian voice.
New Zealand made international news headlines when, as Out magazine put it, New Zealand elected the gayest parliament in history. The outcome of the general election saw 13 members of parliament who openly identified as being part of rainbow communities.
And that's really getting close to how a human would speak, and it's great to actually hear an Australian accent. I have to say the New Zealand accents on offer at the moment aren't particularly that good, but we're getting closer. And the last thing I'll show you in this segment is speech to speech, and this is really exciting because it allows you to input your own voice and it gets turned into someone else, but it keeps all the pacing and all the inflections the same. So for instance, I'll do a live demonstration here where we're going to record some audio. I can never forget the Thistle Hotel. I can never forget that strange winter night. I'd asked her to dine with me and then go to the opera. My room was opposite hers. She said she would come, but could I lace up her evening bodice? It was hooks at the back. And so that's got all my kind of mannerisms, my inflections, my pacing, and we can get to turn that into Nicole. So I'm hoping I can go generate, and this is going to generate a version of Nicole reading this with my inflections and my pacing. So it'll be really interesting to see how that turns out.
I can never forget the Thistle Hotel. I can never forget that strange winter night. I'd asked her to dine with me and then go to the opera. My room was opposite hers. She said she would come, but could I lace up her evening bodice? It was hooks at the back.
So this is just really exciting because it could allow you to, I mean, even if you're not a voice actor, could actually allow you to read some creative output and get a really professional sounding voice at the end of it. So looking forward to the future. So in 2023, ChatGPT came onto the scene, and I immediately started thinking, how can we use ChatGPT to make the PrideNZ collection more accessible and discoverable? And my initial thought was to go back to those data sets that had already been created. So things like the locations data set, the media data set, the tags, etc. The media data set was the first one I thought about because it basically holds all of the information, all of the metadata relating to the recordings on PrideNZ. So what I did, I downloaded the CSV file from PrideNZ and I uploaded it into ChatGPT. And so I'll just do a live demonstration for you as to what that looks like. This is my data set. And so ChatGPT now has all of that information. It's around about 5 megabytes of information. And then you can start querying it. So tell me, I want to find info on Charles Eberhardt. So Charles Allen Eberhardt was somebody who was killed in Hagley Park in 1964, and I know that there are a couple of recordings relating to Allen in the collection. So you can see here that ChatGPT is looking through that data set and has found various columns, and you can see that it's actually displaying a lot more kind of it's very kind of data centric. It's kind of looking at columns, giving you rows and all that kind of stuff. So not particularly conversational, which was what I was hoping for. And so I then thought, well, is there another way of actually giving ChatGPT information to make it a lot more conversational? And this is where the idea of plain text files came into my head. So for instance, if we go on to the Alan's audio page here on PrideNZ, we have things like tags, we've got a brief description. We're going to ignore this summary for just a tick because we'll come back to that. But you can see here we've got tags and we've also got locations, a whole range of information, and we've also got the transcript. And I thought, what happens when we put all of that together into a text file so we make it a lot easier for ChatGPT to kind of understand? And so this is where this plain text link comes in. And so for each recording on PrideNZ, there is now a plain text version of it. So you can see it's quite dense, so I'm just going to go to a more magnified version of that page for us. Ooh, yay. And so we initially say the title of the recording, where it was recorded and the date, the voices, and what kind of recording it is. Is it an interview? Is it an event? Telling ChatGPT that the name's spelled correctly. We have a bit of a description, and then we launch straight into the transcript itself. And what I'm going to do is go right to the very bottom of that transcript so you can see, no, sorry, that's very hard on our eyes. At the very bottom, we've got tags. We've also got where the original audio is coming from. And also we need to make sure at the very end, please note the document may contain errors or omissions, so you need to go back to the original audio to check it out. So when you actually feed that kind of plain text file into ChatGPT, I will just go into this one here, and I can just paste in the URL now. And you'll see that actually you get a lot better response in terms of kind of like a conversational kind of plain English response. And we'll see it coming up very shortly in terms of a summary of what that recording is all about. So that was a huge learning for me in terms of how does GPT relate to data. And you would initially think that actually structured data, so having a data element in a particular field, so like a date, a title, a description, works best. But actually I found that actually taking all of those data elements and putting them into a simple text file actually gives, for this particular thing, gives me a better response. So after kind of figuring that out, I thought, well, how about we create a text summary for each of our recordings? Because as you can see, that the transcripts can actually be quite long. You know, we're talking maybe an hour, 2 hours worth of audio. Is anybody going to actually read that? And so I thought, well, actually, let's make a 300-word summary of each recording. And that's exactly what we did. And so this was done in December 2023. And you can see here that this is actually the summary generated by ChatGPT of this particular recording. So basically it was feeding that plain text file into ChatGPT and then it coming back with a 300 to 400 word summary. I can do that manually, so like do recording by recording, but with 900 recordings I actually did it in bulk. And so you can actually use a bulk process of sending these recordings, these plain text files to ChatGPT and having them get returned to you. So you can do it in bulk. It does cost money. So these summaries for 900, it was about $1,700 to get these put through. But I think it's actually absolutely worth it in terms of discoverability and accessibility. You'll note down the bottom here that we do say that the summary is created by Generative AI, and we can learn more about it. And so this page actually shows the details that we gave ChatGPT, the instructions we want it to do when it gets that plain text file. This is how we want it to kind of make that summary, written very much in plain English. The big thing here for PrideNZ was that we wanted to make the summaries gender neutral. This is because we actually don't hold information on all of the participants on PrideNZ, how they identify in terms of gender expression and gender identity and the use of pronouns, and that actually changes over time as well. So as a way forward, I thought, well, actually, let's make the summaries they, them, rather than she or he. So everything is they, them, and we also use the person's name to kind of break that up as well a wee bit. That actually worked really well. So for the 900 summaries, there would have been about 40 or 50 that I had to go back and tweak because it hadn't done that explicit instruction. But that was, I thought, pretty good going out of 900, but it did mean that I needed to go back and do a search on he and she and make sure that the summaries were corrected. We also offer the ability for anyone, any of the participants to send us a message and correct the summaries and make sure that it is accurate. So for new recordings, I'm actually manually putting my eye across those summaries and checking. For the earlier, say, 850 recordings, I haven't done that just because the scope of that is too large for me. And so I'm relying on, if there is an issue, I mean, I have spot checked, but I'm relying on, if there is an issue, that people get in contact. And I think the key thing for me is that we do an immediate action, in that we do an immediate correction, or as quickly as possible. One of the really exciting things with ChatGPT is now they offer the ability to create customised GPTs, allowing you to connect to different resources around the world, and often that's done through APIs. So an API is an application programming interface, and it allows two computers to talk to one another. A great example is using the DigitalNZ API. So I've made a little customised ChatGPT to DigitalNZ, and I can go tell me about, say, Chrissy Wituko. That is then going to query DigitalNZ. So DigitalNZ is an amazing aggregator of content from a lot of heritage institutions around New Zealand. Has around about 30 million records, which is phenomenal. And you can see now I have access to DigitalNZ via ChatGPT. The same can be said for searching papers past. So I could say on papers past, which again is via DigitalNZ, tell me about the Royal Oak Hotel in Wellington. And you'll be able to see that it actually gives you quite a lot of context around the articles that it's finding in papers past. Not only that, it also gives you a summary and is very, very useful. So when I saw this, I thought, how do I do this? How do I make an API? I've never made an API in my life. I know some programming languages like PHP for, that's the kind of underlying programming language for PrideNZ, but I've never made a API. How do I do it? One of the great things, again, with ChatGPT is that it's a coding assistant. So, for instance, you can go to just ChatGPT and say, I'm using PHP in my website. I want to create a basic API. And then it actually gives you the instructions for creating an API, which I've never done before, but I was absolutely able to do it within a day, just getting, asking GPT about, this is not working, this is working, what do I do, what do I not do, that kind of thing. So an API is at its basics is, one website queries another website, gets a set of responses, search results, for instance, and then the original website can query again and look at a particular record. So generally, there's a search, what they call endpoint, and a record endpoint. To give you an idea what a search is, so like for the PrideNZ API, this is kind of, I queried the API using Chrissy and Weetookle and got this information back. So for a human, that's a bit hard to read. You can see it's just lots of text, but you can break that down into the various components. So basically for every record that's returned, there's an ID, there's a title, there's a description, there's the type of record it is, so this is audio, the context and the date. And so then ChatGPT can kind of take that information and make a response. Then if the user asks for more information, ChatGPT calls another endpoint, and this time, because it's an audio file, we actually look at the audio endpoint. And this is like the full text transcript of the recording, plus keywords, plus production date, production metadata, and that's how ChatGPT then starts analysing that actual audio recording. The APIs, creating an API was a really fantastic learning opportunity, and it just kind of begins to open up a world of amazing possibilities, integrating things like PrideNZ into ChatGPT. PrideNZ released its first customised ChatGPT in January 2024, and I'll give you a very brief demonstration of what it looks like. So again, this is using ChatGPT, a subscription model, and the GPT is called querypridenz.com. ChatGPT actually gave us or created this icon for us, which I thought was quite nice. But it allows you to basically query the PrideNZ website through an API. So for instance, I can say, tell me about Stephanie Gibson. So Stephanie is a curator at Te Papa and has been instrumental in getting the New Zealand AIDS Memorial quilts and other rainbow-related items into the national collections. And you can see here that it's queried the PrideNZ website, has given a wee bit of a description about Stephanie, and then is going through some of the recordings that Stephanie's been involved in. To give you an idea of what that same search is like actually on the PrideNZ website, just using a straight text search, I've searched for Stephanie Gibson here. We've got her name as a tag, as a voice, and then these are the pages that Stephanie is related to. And so you can see with the ChatGPT, there's a lot more information that is being pulled through, and it's a lot more kind of contextual. We can then go a bit deeper into those recordings. So we can say, tell me about Stephanie and preserving the quilt. And it should give us a lot more detailed information about this. It's actually jumped to a specific recording about packing the quilt in Auckland for transport to Papa. And so at this point, it's actually taking the information in the plain text file, so the transcription and keywords, and constructing quite a nice narrative here. And then it will also link to the PrideNZ website. So you can get that kind of straight, so to speak, summary of recordings and kind of do that conversation with the GPT. But you can also be quite creative. So for instance, I could say, does this make you want to create a haiku? And so it does a haiku from that information. Can you make this a bit longer? And so not only is it giving you straight information, it's actually adding a real creative element as well. To give you an idea of what's behind the customised ChatGPT and actually how you create one, we will just go into Edit ChatGPT. I should also say, so this GPT is available to anyone with a subscription on ChatGPT, so you can make these customised GPTs and then share them with the public, but you do need a subscription at this stage. So a very basic setup, so basically the name, the description, and this is where the magic happens. This is how you instruct the GPT to tell it how it's supposed to interact. So firstly, you task it to be a friendly and authoritative research assistant for users interested in rainbow history in New Zealand. Then it talks about querying the PrideNZ API to get the information. Quite importantly, you can say things like when you do a search, basically the PrideNZ API is very basic, so it doesn't have any logic to it. It's just looking for keywords, and so you're telling ChatGPT to don't send it a fully formed sentence, just send it keywords to get some kind of response. And then below here it tells us how we should respond to the user. And at the very bottom here, it has a line saying that if you can't find information, you can supplement your information from the internet. So not only can you get material from PrideNZ, but you can also get it from the internet as well. So yes, it's a really quite a simple setup in terms of just being able to write plain English in terms of what you want it to do and how you want it to respond. You can also upload files, so if you had spreadsheets or particular files that were considered knowledge, you can do that. You can allow web browsing, you can allow it to create images as well, and interpret code, so there's a whole range of things. So not only can you make it really serious or just just very authoritative, you can also have fun with it as well. And so another one I've just been playing with is the playful PrideNZ query, which is tell me about Wellington Pride parades. And this particular customized GPT is written to be a flamboyant pirate, and so hopefully it will give us a response as a flamboyant pirate. And this is one of the really exciting things with these customized GPTs, is that you can layer or skin the response to different audiences, so you can have the same underlying data, but then actually skin it in different ways, which is really, really exciting. Can you construct sea shanty? Oh, and we've got verses as well, which is really fantastic. And with that lovely sea shanty, I will say this is the end of the video.